This episode of Housing for Good is brought to you by listeners and supporters just like you. If you believe in creating safe, stable, and affordable housing for everyone, consider supporting the McPherson Housing Coalition. Your donation helps us provide housing solutions, support services, and hope to those who need it the most. To donate, visit our website, McPhersonHousingCoalition.org. All donations are tax deductible. Thank you.
Welcome to Housing for Good, a podcast dedicated to housing topics and issues affecting our communities in McPherson County and beyond. With years of experience and expertise, hosts Chris Goodson and Carolyn Moore discuss housing challenges and opportunities with other experts from a variety of housing fields.
Now we are joined by Beth Waddell, and Beth is part of the South Central COC, so she's one of our partner agencies.
She's one of our people.
Yes, she's one of our people. Mm-hmm. I've seen her for years on our monthly meetings, and My Father's House.
What a cool name.
Yeah.
First of all, I have to know, okay, you have to
and
tell
where
us.
Are you located?
I want to hear about My Father's
So we're
House.
in Paola,
yes.
Okay.
And the name comes from the Bible verse in John where it talks about, in my Father's house there are many rooms. I'm going there to prepare a place for you.
I love it.
And so that was kind of the dream, was a place with many rooms where that we could prepare for people who needed a place to stay.
I absolutely
and
love that.
when we at McPherson Housing Coalition were building our tiny homes, our emergency shelter cottages, Beth wanted to come. She said a couple times, I want to come down. I want to see what you guys are doing.
Yes.
And she never made it in person.
Never got to in person.
But tell us what you have done in Paola.
So we are in the process of developing a tiny homes community right behind our existing transitional housing shelter. And so it's all on the same property. Mm-hmm. And the neat thing about that is it's kind of protected on either side by fields. And so we didn't have so many of the concerns about not in my backyard and concerns with neighbors. And it's a more protected area because it's a single driveway. It's not like no through traffic or anything like that. And so we ultimately have room back there for about 40 tiny homes.
Oh,
and
wow.
have currently are funded for almost, let me get this. So we first received a grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Topeka. The first was for $1 million for the first phase. And then the following year received an additional $1.5 million.
Wow.
And so that coupled with some other commitments, we have about $3 million that we have to play with at this point. And so the goal for that $3 million is getting the infrastructure in. That's kind of the phase that we're in at this point. All that land has been cleared. It's about 6 acres. And we currently have storm sewers in, and the land is graded. Now they're working on getting all of the underground utilities in so that they can put the roads over on top of all that. So
that's what's crazy is people don't understand when you talk about housing. They only think about what it costs to put up that house.
To build a house.
But you have to have all these utilities. And that, even for our projects, we had to put in that drainage, we have to put in all these sidewalks, we have to do all this stuff. And that's what really adds to the cost of this.
Absolutely.
Of building all this affordable housing or shelters or whatever you're doing, is the cost of those utilities.
That was one of the great things about the Federal Home Loan Bank of Topeka. Their affordable housing program funds do allow for development costs in those expenses. And so we were so fortunate to be able to work with them to receive those funds, because it really is the difference between being able to do a project like that or not, where if you can't get utilities back there, if you can't develop that land to what it needs to be, then it doesn't. All the houses in the world don't matter.
And that's the other part about this is we also got a grant from Federal Home Loan Bank. Thank you, by the way.
Yes.
But
Incredible.
when you think about all of this, people always say to me, as a business person, economics. Well, economics drives things, right? They always say supply and demand and all of that type of thing. But what people don't understand is there's not a lot of money to be made for affordable housing, for emergency shelters, for all of those pieces. And so you have to have grants like the Federal Home Loan Bank and all the other things that we get, because it doesn't work. That's the part people don't understand. Without those grants, this doesn't, from an economic standpoint, it does not work. You can't make this work otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, Beth, you mentioned that you currently have transition housing. Tell me what that is and how many folks do you have in that?
So in our existing transitional housing shelter, we have 11 rooms, and each of those rooms can, most of them can serve up to 4 people at a time.
Okay.
So, but typically, so when we have a family, they have their own room.
Yeah.
And then when we have individual women, we typically have a roommate situation.
Okay.
And so that at that point, we may just have 2 people in that room.
Yeah.
They're not huge rooms, so 2 people that are unrelated is a lot.
Yeah.
If
That
you're a
is a
single
lot.
mom with 2 or 3 kids in there, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So we typically have between 20 and 25 people when we're at capacity. And so they stay there while we provide supportive services. We provide 3 meals a day. We provide case
wow.
management, transportation. We don't provide on-site medical services, but we have partners in the community that provide medical services, mental health services, have great relationships with other partners that do some of those things as
You
well.
have to have that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I am not a doctor.
Right.
I am not a nurse. I am not a mental health counselor.
Right.
I need partnerships for all of that to help the folks that we work with. Now, the houses, when you get to build them, what will that permanent supportive housing be for? Families, individuals? Do you have a line in mind of who's going to stay there?
Sure. So our goal is permanent supportive housing. Some of that will also depend on the funding sources that come in for services.
Yeah.
But absolutely looking at people who are recovering from homelessness, people who have some sort of disability that maybe makes it a little more challenging for them to be successful in permanent housing
Yeah.
on their own. Sometimes we see people who, if they had a landlord that was just a little more flexible, they would be able to stay in housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because a typical lease and apartment, like a company managed thing, doesn't always allow for those things. And so,
Yeah.
so really those folks that just kind of struggle being successful out on their own, those are the folks that we're really targeting. I love that there is not, in permanent supportive housing, there's not an expiration date on their pillow.
I love that too.
You
Yeah.
know, they're just,
That's-
I can't imagine watching a time clock click
I
down
know.
on where I live. And I don't get me wrong, I think that transitional housing is a very important piece of the puzzle, but I think it's not the only piece.
Yeah.
It's not the only solution. I think we really have to have varied types of housing programs to be successful.
Yeah.
You know, we in our community didn't have any emergency shelter, so we made some modifications to our building and designated one single room that's only accessible from the exterior as our emergency shelter room. We can only serve up to 4 people in that room on
Yeah.
a night, but it was something, and it was a missing piece. And
Yeah.
so we have, you know, we have to have those emergency pieces. What do we do with this person today? Because our
Right.
transitional shelter almost always has a wait list, and sometimes it could
Yeah.
be weeks or even months before somebody gets in. And so so we have to have all those pieces of the puzzle. And then, you know, where are they transitioning to? For us, we saw that Miami County had the lowest rental vacancy rates of any Southeast Kansas county, and we had the highest median rental rates.
Oh,
Supply
wow.
and demand.
Yeah.
Places weren't opening up very often, and when they did, they were too expensive for the folks we were working with to get into.
Yeah.
And if that's what landlords can get, then who can blame them for
Yeah.
charging that? That's
Yeah.
you know, they're making money too, and that's their goal. But we just didn't have enough housing. You know, the law of supply and demand just continued to drive those prices up. And so for us, the next piece of that puzzle was really that we had to add to that housing stock, to that rental stock. But in a little more specialized way to serve
So
the folks that
permanent
we
supportive
see.
housing, do they pay rent?
So they will. They'll pay about it. Typically comes to about a third of their
So 30%.
of their income.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you are doing, that's how we do it as
That's
well.
how ours is, yeah.
And then are
Yeah.
you supplementing that with other grants? Is that how you're making that work?
So that's our goal. We're still working on some specifics there. We have been in contact with a couple different agencies about rental subsidies. Everybody's funding has been kind of in flex.
I know,
All of
that's
their
the
federal
truth.
funding
Yeah.
this,
And it makes it
this last
tricky
year.
with some grants when we always talk about this, when you get awarded July 1st and you don't see your first check till November, December last year.
Yeah.
And so that makes it tricky,
Yes.
right? Because you still got to keep going. You got to still providing
Absolutely.
services and you're not getting that money in a timely manner.
Right.
That is very hard on nonprofits.
It is. It is. So we're hopeful still. I come at things from a very faith-based approach often. I have we've been doing, so January made 20 years for us that we have been providing homeless services there in Paola.
Wow.
And we have seen God provide in incredible ways again and again, through the community, through grants, through a lot of different avenues. And so I get a lot less nervous these days when we don't have all of the details lined up. I am just trusting that we're going to figure out the subsidies and that all the pieces are going to fall into place when they're supposed to. And so
we've seen that too.
I'm trying to be patient,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
We really have seen that
it's an
too.
exercise in patience for sure.
Yeah. How when you get the churches connected to the work you're doing, it's
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, we built our entire shelter from donations from our local churches.
Absolutely.
And our businesses and a lot of other people, but we
Yeah.
watched the same thing.
Yeah.
Every time we needed something, there it was, even before we knew we needed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Knowing that it was going to happen. So that's such a cool thing. I mean, we would go on site while they were building and just feel all these churches. I mean, it was just, I can't explain the feeling of what that is.
Yes.
It's just incredible
It
to
is.
watch churches working together and cooperating and just making this happen not for us, but for the people who
Right.
are
Yes.
in our community who are really struggling. So,
And I
love
won't
it.
get too preachy here, but I'm a big believer that honestly that the church, big church, not like the church in general, all
Yes.
churches, are really called to do a lot of the work that sometimes we rely really heavily on the government to do. And I think we're called to feed people and house people and take care of the widows and the orphans and
Yes.
the people who are sometimes overlooked and easily missed in society. And I think that the church, when the church is doing that, I think the church is better at that than the government can ever be.
Yes.
I think we can have a more relational approach and a more direct and efficient approach.
Yeah.
And so I think that when the more involved our local churches get, I think the closer we are to doing that the way that it's really best done. And we actually have a church that just recently started bringing meals in. And I always invite churches when they bring meals to stay and eat with our residents, but a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
And this group has really taken that on and actually sits down and eats and gets
Yeah.
to know our people, and our people love that.
Yeah.
I think that, when you can get that level of buy-in on a big scale, it really does create this community and system that supports the work that we as shelters do.
Yeah.
And what I love too with the churches is a lot of times they've thought to themselves, well, we have to go across internationally to do mission work.
Right.
And really, as a church, you're called really to be right where you are.
Yeah.
But it's harder to do local missions because you probably know Mary or Sally or Beth, and maybe they didn't make the right choices, so they deserve whatever they have. But you can go overseas, do your thing, throw money at them, and then come home and never know what happens.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's harder, but it is important to do local missions. I have been
is.
preaching this for years, and everybody's
Absolutely.
like, you're thinking I'm crazy, but I think people are finally seeing that, especially in the church community
Yeah.
and throughout the regular community, that it's really important that you see your own place where you live as your mission.
Absolutely. I call it backyard missions.
Yes, I
Because
love
I
it.
love that.
it's
perfect.
right there in your community. And there's a mission field.
Yep.
Wherever you live, there is a mission field.
That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. So
Absolutely.
for our listeners, agencies that are out there that maybe you're listening, Beth and My Father's House did it. McPherson Housing Coalition with Chris and Carolyn, we did it. What we're doing can be done. It can be done nationwide, and it can make a difference. People don't need a McMansion.
Right.
Sometimes they just need a safe place to have a roof over your head where you can raise your family and you are taken care of. So thank you, Beth, for
thank
being
you.
on
Thank
our
you for having me.
on our podcast, and this has been a wonderful conversation.
It has. Love it.
Okay, so now we have been joined by Randy McCoy, and I first met Randy when we had our special notice of funding opportunity to build the first 7 houses in Sutherland Estates, and Randy was with HUD, and he was our technical advisor.
Did he do a good job technically advising you, Carolyn?
He did a good job.
Okay,
When
that's
you don't know anything, you don't know anything.
I know, right?
So, Randy, are you still doing that kind of work? What are you doing?
I am. I am currently a technical assistance provider. I work with App Global. I split my time almost evenly between projects for HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and
Yeah.
the Veterans Administration.
Oh, those
where-
are two good agencies.
Yeah.
That's very good. The agents, the veterans are really getting into this housing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they need to. We
They
have
do
a lot
need-
of
they-
veterans
they
that are,
really do need
that
to.
are homeless.
Yeah.
So we would meet with you, and you helped us navigate the application, not the application, the getting the funding into place. We had been awarded the money, and you would answer my questions about what do I do now? How do I get my account set up with HUD so I can receive funding? You just kind of helped walk us through, and then we would meet. I don't know that it was every month, maybe monthly for a little bit, but just to answer those questions about how's it going? Are you having any problems? What's going on?
Yeah. I think one of the things that HUD did during the special NOFO or SNOFO
Yeah.
that was really good, the SNOFO kind of had two parts. One part focused on unsheltered homelessness and one focused on rural areas
Yes.
specifically, which was the first time that HUD had done a very special, specific program for rural areas, which was amazing. The extra special part, I think, that went along with that was attaching technical assistance to communities that receive funds through the SNOFO to help with implementing those grants. For a lot of programs, it was a lot like their regular HUD grants. You get a grant, you pay for somebody's apartment, you provide support services, but there were special ones like yours, which I think were a lot more fun. It was organizations taking on actual development of affordable housing, whether it's either for folks who are experiencing homelessness and coming out of homelessness to support other affordable housing projects in communities, and that's a little more nuanced kind of a project.
It's very nuanced. Fortunately, we had a lot of experience by that point.
Yeah.
It wasn't, we just didn't have experience on the HUD side and all the requirements and making
Yeah.
sure we were doing our paperwork correctly, which, from the government side, red tape is just part of it. You have to know how to fill those forms out so you don't get yourself into trouble. And that's what I loved about working with you guys was that it was, if we messed something up, you're like, okay, let's walk this back
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
Oh.
so Randy got to hear about the Sutherland Estates, the first 7
Yep.
houses that we were building, and kind of how that was going along. And so, yeah, that was super special because it was very unusual. It had not really been done before.
Yeah, that was a whole interesting way that whole thing came about, and we were very grateful to finally get our funding to be able to do that.
And I think it was a lot of fun for me from almost like this voyeur-esque kind of perspective, because I'm dropping in, once a month or something, and it's like, Carolyn, tell me about how the project is going. And it's like, we've broken ground on the first 3, and we've poured
Yeah.
the foundations,
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
we're getting in drywall, and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the first ones got their occupancy permits, and we're moving people in. And
Yeah.
it was really nice to see kind of that.
We were moving forward. There's no
Oh,
doubt
yeah.
about it. We weren't messing
Yeah.
around. I mean, I think we
No.
were the first ones to get all of our stuff through. We had our contract before anybody else. Between the two of us, we were making this thing happen. We knew we had families that were
Yeah.
needing us, and we were going to make it happen. So your help was instrumental, though, in this whole process, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was fun kind of in year 2 of the grant when you're starting to see the end of the grant period, and you're starting to have conversations with programs about, okay, how are you doing on spending all of your money? Do you have enough to get you through? Do you have too much? Are there adjustments we need to make? You guys were like, yeah, we spent it all. We're done.
We're good,
And,
we're good.
And it's almost like, okay, have you had any cost overruns? Are there any, is there anything we need to look at in the budget where you have to save money? And it's like, no, we're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
Anything that we were short, we raised it. We just made sure that we raised it, so we
Yeah.
were fine. Or we brought volunteers in to help finish some stuff, or we did lots of things to make that work. We're very good at running on a very tight budget. The CFO, who happens to be
Yeah.
my mother, is like she holds on to that money like it's the gold, the last dollar in the country, in the whole nation, in the world.
Yeah.
She is not letting go, so we were very careful with how we did it.
But the success of that project, now we have 7 families that live there. And part of the agreement was we would have 30% of the beds, which basically there's 17 beds when you look at the number of folks that can sleep there per bedroom or whatever. And so that requires us to have 3. But I'm proud to say we have more than 3 chronic, air quotes, chronic families or individuals that are living there. They're having success. We've actually had our first single mom with kids move out and move into housing someplace else because things are going well for her. She's progressing along. And ultimately, that's the goal. So, yes, I was just so happy when I saw that you were going to be here today. I'm like, we have to talk with Randy.
I have to say that permanent supportive housing, if you're out there listening, it really works. I mean, if there's any way to get more funding or more SNOFOs or more rural stuff, we need to get that in Kansas and across the nation, because I'm telling you, from our perspective, it is working. I mean, the things that we're seeing, 80% success rate in all of our projects, everything that we're doing, they're working, and these people are back to work. They are successful. They're stable. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It does. It absolutely works. And I think for projects like this, and maybe in rural areas more generally, it really opens up a lot of opportunities for creative thinking and partnerships, especially for organizations that normally just provide the support services or the rental assistance, but there are developers who are willing to build housing for folks. But that synergy, one person couldn't do all of it, but two people together can do a lot of things. And so, just like you were talking about, we built the first 7, now we're building the first 5, and then there's going to be 20, and then there's going to be 50. And when I see you guys in a couple of years, it's going to be like, we have 212 units now, you know?
Well, I wouldn't get that excited. I don't think we're that fast.
I believe in you.
Well, thank you.
No,
I will say we have a great team. I mean, I have an incredible team of people who are very passionate about what they do. They care. They're willing to go do the craziest thing, like this podcast. When I said, hey, let's do a podcast, and Joey's looking at me like I'm crazy, and Carolyn's rolling her eyes. And here we are now at a live thing at the summit, being able to talk to you about it. Yeah. So, you just have to believe in what you're doing and move forward and have a passion for it.
I remember one of our monthly check-ins, and Carolyn, how are things going? She's like, well, we just got the funding secured for the next 5, and it's like, you're not done with the first 7.
No, I know, right?
The next 5 are coming, so
I know.
200 in a couple of years.
Yeah, we just got some more money to build some workforce housing from a federal level. So that's our next thing. We're not even done with the other 5, but we're going to do that next.
Was that Federal Home Loan Bank? Is that right?
For the 5?
Yeah.
Yes. The workforce housing is not that Federal Home Loan Bank. That's another thing that we got.
Well, and it's very interesting because that SNOFO allowed us to do 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. But the Federal Home Loan Bank, they want everything to be handicap accessible, disability accessible. So it could only be 1 and 2 bedrooms. So no more basements.
Yeah.
And so, it gets a little tricky to navigate all of those grants and loans and different things that you're doing. But you know what, we're doing it and it's working, and that's what you have to layer, you have to piece it together and make it work. So,
and I think that's another perfect example of those partnerships. And
yes.
When I still worked for programs, before I went into the TA space, we did affordable housing development. We did a lot with low-income housing tax credits. We did some home-only projects. But one of the things when we were thinking about doing a project was how many of the units will be dedicated for people coming out of homelessness, how many will be, workforce housing, low-income housing, kind of in the traditional way. But one of the partnerships that we had was with an organization that worked with people who needed special housing types. They needed independent supported living in the community, but it was very hard for them to find units. And it was always a good day when we knew we were going to take on a new project and to go to them and say, how many units do you want? And they always wanted units. And it's this great partnership because we could build units and sometimes even build them to the specifications that they needed, all ADA compliant or whatever. So they knew that they were going to have units that their individuals can use, and we knew that we were going to have people in those units, so we didn't have to worry about turnover and leasing and that kind of stuff as much. Yeah. And it's just those partnerships that can be built to help you guys on the development side, but also agencies, whether they're serving homeless individuals or people with disabilities or older populations, get affordable housing in the community. So
I will tell you that we just hired a contractor / developer who works for us full time now.
See, 200.
We're not playing around.
I'm telling you, that should be the new slogan, 200 by 28.
Let's not tell too many people. I already freak everybody out, so we're not going to add that to it. But
we'll keep it a secret for now.
Okay. No one's listening to the podcast, so no one's going to know.
Okay, hey Randy, thank you. I'm so glad I ran into you
Yeah,
and
that
that
was
you
fun.
agreed to come and have a conversation with us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me.
Thank
It's
you.
good to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go again. We've had lunch, we've had a little bit of nourishment, we're ready to get back at it. And right now we have Jeremy Harmon with us, and he is with Center of Hope Ministry. I've been looking at your booth all day. It's very intriguing, the props you have around there. Jeremy, tell us about who you work for and what do you do?
Thank you, Carolyn and Chris. It's great to be here and join with you guys on this podcast. Again, my name is Jeremy, and I'm with the Center of Hope Ministry. I work for the people in need
I
because
love
this
that.
is not work. I don't get
Okay.
a paycheck.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
wouldn't
wow.
do it if it was work.
Yeah.
We're just here to meet a need in the community that's not met by anyone else.
So give us an idea of where your name came from. I always want to know that.
Okay, so the name, the Center of Hope Ministry, came from our founder in November of 2021 during a cold spell, an Arctic blast, which I guess seems to be a recurring annual occurrence here in
Yes.
Kansas.
Yes, it's quite the shocker when you don't grow up here and you get to see that.
So he was from the local area here in Manhattan. Ended up in the Pacific Northwest working with a job that he was at the time, and through that ended up addicted to drugs and
wow.
homeless, and found himself alone in the cold, hopeless, until he got connected with a low barrier drop-in shelter up in the Portland, Oregon area that also helped him get back here to Manhattan, where he at least had the stability of knowing people or family. He got connected with the local day center here, got connected with a job, and then that winter he noticed that some of the people that he knew either from within the community and the community of those that were struggling that didn't have a place to go to sleep at night, especially when it was really cold, because there's some that just don't fit the bill, if you will, for some other type of shelters. We have an amazing network of service providers here in Manhattan that help a lot of people, but no one can do everything, and there are just some that they create their own barriers, and that was the case for Will, and so he saw that was also a case for some people that he knew. So he set out to figure something out, and so he would pick people up from in his truck and take them to where he was working. That could only last for a couple of days because of liabilities and things. So then he got connected with our community foundation and was like, I want to be able to have a place, or at least a name and an entity to where we can utilize spaces that we're not going to get kicked out of, because many of the marginalized or the really challenging ones that we see, they're often trespassed from other places just trying to find a place to sleep. So he set out to find something, which then led him to get connected with the church and connected with the foundation to create this entity that he called the Center of Hope, because really kind of building off of the hopelessness, but give hope and be a place of that. So the Center of Hope
So
ministry.
you help people that are in the Manhattan area?
Yes.
And so you have an actual address where the center is located?
Not currently.
Not currently, okay.
We are still, yes, in a sense grassroots, but really we're not at this point. Last winter, we were connected with a church in the downtown area that opened their doors to us, that allowed us to use some of their space that would meet code for us to be able to shelter. So we only operate just overnight. We're an overnight drop-in shelter is our model currently.
Okay.
And then this past winter, we were able to connect with the city of Manhattan and
great.
lease an underutilized space also in the downtown area, because that's where the need is the greatest.
Yeah.
And it's walking distance for our guests that use other services during the day. So we operate as as a ultra low barrier drop-in shelter. There's no requirements except to obey the rules, respect yourself, respect others, respect us, and respect the space that we're using. And if you can do that, you're in. So that's what we do to care for people, understanding that they'll create barriers for themselves from some type, and then we want to help connect them with resources and really just connect with them to see how they can move forward, and maybe find the gaps of resources that they're not using or they're not aware of or they're not connected with. And we just see a tremendous positive movement when we're open.
So I love how he calls them guests.
Yeah.
That is so respectful and dignified.
Yeah.
That the way that they're treating people. And I'm guessing, now I might be wrong, but you may be the first step for some people, especially if they're experiencing homelessness and maybe they haven't gotten assistance before, and you're in very low barrier shelter so people can come in at whatever stage they're at and then move forward. Would that be the case? Are you really the first step for people so that they can move on?
So we've been called either a first step, a fresh start, or a last resort.
Well, it's all good. It's all good.
It's any one of the above, if you will.
Yeah.
Understanding that homelessness is not an identity, and so trying to have the conversation that we're not going to solve visible or chronic or persistent homelessness with one single approach, one single entity, or one blanket solution.
Yeah.
It really takes all of us working together. It takes each one of us doing what we do well and making those connections, and get away from homeless as an identity and understand that it is an individual human being that is going through a situation or a circumstance that most of us can't imagine.
Yes.
And certainly wouldn't want to necessarily experience ourselves. And so that's the approach that we take as a first. If someone comes to us and there's room at the emergency shelter or another type of assisted or supportive environment, transitional housing, whatever, if they're at a place where they either qualify or can easily transition into that, we want to help them make that connection. I'd rather see someone have to only spend one night, and then the next nights they're working towards stable housing. That's amazing. I don't want to see them again until they come back to say hey and thank you. That's the time I want to see them, or I want to see them in town or at the store and say hi and check in on them.
Unfortunately, the folks we work with, it's some of the lowest point in their life.
Absolutely.
And you're just trying to get them a lot of times stable enough to start thinking about the next steps they need to take. So I talked about the props. I mentioned the props when you sat down and we started this conversation. So you have a cot and a sleeping bag and a pillow next to your booth. Is that items that you offer the folks that you work with?
So yes. Now, it's not offer for them to take out of the shelter.
But for the night.
So early on, the space that was being used, again, very small grassroots and learning, we're a constantly learning organization, was just, hey, here's a box of some pillows and blankets, make you a place on the bed, and you're thankful that you've got 4 walls and some climate control around you.
Yeah.
And that absolutely met the need as it was seen at the time. Coming into downtown, the downtown area where we anticipated that we would see more, not knowing exactly what the numbers would be, wanted to really bring some dignity to our guests, as well as provide opportunities for the community to participate in our initiative and give them a tangible thing that they could contribute when they're apprehensive to contribute hard cash or money directly. So set out on this cot campaign, found these, and in the space we were in, we were borrowing or shortly renting that space night to night. And so we had to, and because it was still a space that church used daily, we were packing it up every morning and then setting it out every night. So those collapsible cots, heavy duty cots, I found them on sale online, posted that in our wish list and on our social media. And what that cot does is it is a heavy duty cot. We have a few different sizes. There's some extra large and extra large, but they also came with this really cool mattress pad. And so that mattress pad that you see came with those cots. And then for cleanliness and health and everything, we got mattress protectors. So twin size mattress protectors fit right over it. And then the sleeping bag is, everyone gets a sleeping bag. They may be different colors or things, but when you come in, it's a first come, first serve for bedding.
Yeah.
So everybody gets basically the same thing. And then the pillow has a pillow protector on it, again, for health, cleanliness, and longevity of the pillows. Even if they were good donated used pillows, we still want to protect them for as long as possible. And then a fresh clean pillowcase that is laundered after every day. So that gave tangible items for the community to start contributing.
One thing I've noticed with everybody that we've talked to today is how creative everybody is.
Yeah.
I mean, that was so creative to know he needed to get people involved, and maybe they wouldn't give you cash, but maybe they'll buy a cot, or maybe they'll buy a pillow, or maybe they'll do those things. So they're creative, and we always say this at our office too, is that you have to be willing to constantly learn. So like when we started this podcast, we really didn't know what we were doing exactly. We just did it, and then we figured out what we did wrong, and we kept on going. So that's what I love, is how creative these nonprofits are, how they're willing to learn and change based on the needs of their guests, and how we can provide for people in a really caring way. So this has been incredible. I really love what you're doing, and maybe you could come on our podcast when we have our regular 30-minute podcast and really dig deep into the things that you're doing with your organization. We would love that.
Yeah, we could we certainly try to do that sometime.
Yeah.
I like what you guys have on your shirts, faith and love in action.
Oh, thank
we
you.
are a faith-based organization that sets out to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Jesus is the head of our organization. He just happened to need me as a manager for the time being, and that's how I serve in the Center of Hope as
Awesome.
his current leader and building the team. But everything that we do with love, and that's our reason, is loving people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this brief podcast today. We appreciate your work, and thanks for stopping by.
Thank you all, and thank you for what you do.